Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. Today we are joined by Jeremy Hall and Mack Richards, who are from Nexio. How are you guys?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I am good.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Mack, what is your role and title?
Yeah, so I'm the business development manager at Nexio. So just managing all the top of sales funnel type stuff, new partnerships. And so been there for about 3 years now.
Very cool. And Jeremy, your title and role?
Yeah, I'm the VP of Strategic Partnerships. So coming in and managing all of the partnerships that Nexio deals with, especially ISV or integrated sales verticals, strategic partners.
Cool.
Yeah.
We will talk about ISVs in a minute here. Let's go back a bit and let's talk about the company Nexio. What is the founding story to the best of your knowledge, and ultimately what do you guys do?
Yeah, so the founders really came together, three guys who have a great background in sales, started learning the payments industry and ecosystem, and basically thought to themselves, I think we can do a better job than what's out there. And these three guys are so complementary to one another as far as their skill sets and the assets that they had brought together. And over the years, just built a really great merchant portfolio and continued to grow it really organically over the years. Had great success bringing partnerships on, had great success finding, referral partners and things like that until, before they knew it, they had this thriving company with double-digit employees and just continued to grow from there. And I think surprised themselves as far as how far they were able to get this thing and what it is today. So
cool.
Great guys. Yeah.
There's certain things that are more painful in life than others. And I think for a lot of people, not if you're buying something on Amazon and you swipe your credit card or McDonald's or whatever, but everything after and before that is kind of painful, right? Figuring out where money should go, how it should go, and the fees and the different structures, all of that. As we've, set up systems here, it's been something you really have to pay attention to. And a lot of the time there's an actual learning curve to it. To the point where it's like, can you just send a check in the mail? And the answer is usually no, right? Maybe 1986, but the world's changed a lot. Is that true in your guys' view, that there's a lot out there and that there is some pain? And is that a part of what you guys are solving?
Yeah. I think as far as pain, it's really the merchants, it's the businesses that feel that pain, right? Yeah. When you think about payments, you think about a credit card, right? There's that little logo that lives down at the bottom of that card, right? And
yep.
And that logo, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. It's a great business model for them because they've really created this industry that lends to the customer. It's very customer focused, customer centric, right? And so there's very little pain. In fact, they've removed the pain from the customer, and they've really kind of put that pain on the businesses, on the merchants, to be able to accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, or American Express as a form of payment, and then have everything work correctly on the back end with the acquiring banks and the issuing banks, and having that money move correctly in the correct places and do it as fast as it happens is pretty amazing when you think about it, right? I mean, you stick your card in to pay for something, and within seconds you have that approval back, and that next day the funds are moved out of the account and into the other account. And so the pain really exists if you are a business trying to accept those cards, right? Because there's a whole application process that you have to go through. There's quite a few hoops that you've got to jump through. And then if you add, software or additional components or ancillary, products that you need to layer on top of payments, then it just becomes exponentially more painful, right? If you don't have the right partnerships, if you don't have the right groups that you're dealing with there.
Yeah. And I think you make a great point, like they've put it on the merchants to figure it out. It doesn't happen very often these days, but I remember when I was really young, there were certain establishments, businesses, eateries, whatever it was, that didn't accept certain credit cards. And there was a few times I remember where it's like, well, where's the ATM, or do you take a check? Because like that partnership or hadn't been solidified yet, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And if you're the merchant, that's got to be painful if there's a customer there ready to pay.
Yeah, it's really a cost of doing business today. You have to accept credit cards because that's how customers want to pay. And again, it's a brilliant business model from the card brands, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, because now they've incentivized their customers to want to pay with cards, right? You've got miles and rewards and different things that you can earn as a consumer. And it's great for me as a consumer and for you as a consumer. But as a business, it can be painful for sure.
Yeah. You've mentioned a lot of like channels and verticals and partners. Like it seems like these are kind of the key to growing and scaling a business like Nexio, in addition to like all the other stuff you need running a normal business. How do those work? Who kind of leads out on that? And what is if you can summarize like the process of these partnerships and interactions that ultimately result in like a key partnership / initiative with Nexio?
Yeah, well, I mean, within fintech, right? Again, there's so many different elements to this. You've got banking institutions that are actually moving funds out of accounts and into accounts, and then you've got the card brands who kind of set the rules and dictate what's going to happen and how it's supposed to happen, and then you've got processors like us who help facilitate individual merchants or individual businesses to be able to accept cards. And so, within that ecosystem, there are a myriad of different partnerships that are essential to making sure that the function of that ecosystem is healthy and works for you. But ultimately, one of the things that I think companies miss a lot is to keep the focus on helping the individual business, right? And I think that's one of the things at Nexio that's really been ingrained in our culture from the beginning. Do what's right for the customer, help the customer, and add value to the customer. And as long as we continue to do that, we have success. And part of the strategy that we've always had is if we can partner with a company that can add significant value to our merchants, we want to do it, right? And so, back before fintech was even really a thing, right? It was very compartmentalized what a merchant actually had to go and do in order to have a fully functional payment ecosystem or strategy. They would have to go to individual groups or companies and integrate directly with them in order to create this payment stack that was advantageous for them as an individual company. And what we've seen is we've really seen the industry start to all come together and create these all-in-one offerings, right? And Nexio is no different. Essentially, what we've done is we've gone out and we've reached out to either strategic partners within certain verticals or within the banking institution arena or what have you, fraud as well. That's all of those components, PCI compliance. We've gone out and we've found the best of the best, and we've partnered with those groups to offer a really unique set of advantages to our customers. And so essentially with Nexio, you're able to, with a singular point of integration, have access to a full and robust offering for everything that you need as a merchant. And so from a strategic partnership perspective, it's very important to us that we maintain the integrity of that mindset, right? Of the customer first, customer centric mindset, because we really attribute a lot of the success to that today.
Yeah. And again, like this is one of the industries that people don't appreciate. Mm-hmm. It's like, here's
nobody likes their credit card processor.
And now I got the burrito, right? And the amount of blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes is a lot. And that's kind of in your title there, Mack, of business development manager. Developing business for Nexio, kind of building on what Jeremy just said. What does that entail for you and your team?
Yeah, so like Jeremy's been talking about, he's been talking a lot about the merchant side of our business, right? And we service thousands of merchants. Where I kind of differentiate from that is I actually work with the software partner side of the Nexio technology, right? So when I say software partner, I mean management software company. So healthcare, EHR, EMR, hospitality, booking, any software that's looking to resell payments within their platform for their users or the merchants is who I'm really focused on. So it can be hard to get those partners on the phone, but we've really dialed in that process of being able to find those software verticals that we're really looking for. And, we've built a great business model to where we can, help those partners monetize payments more so than what they're doing today with their current payment processor. And more importantly, and what's more attractive about that is we actually help them embed their payment or integrate payments within their software. So it looks and feels just like their software. When their partners get set up with that software, they can get set up with payments as well. And we can typically get them set up same day. So their customers feel like it's a seamless process. It looks and feels like the software. They're set up and ready to go with payment processing, in just a few hours. And so that's a lot of value that we can add to those software platforms. So I don't know if there's anything you want to elaborate on, Jer.
No, just we've taken the complexity of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a software provider and you're saying, hey, we want to embed payments into our software stack, it's really daunting if you don't have a good partner to go do that, because then you have to be the one that figures out each of those individual partnerships, as I mentioned before. And so
Gotcha.
We allow those software partners to really come in and utilize our network that we've already created, and then customize it to what they need, tailor it to what they need, so that it adds a lot of value to their customer base.
Yeah, because last time I checked, people don't like when there's fraud, or they've got banking issues, or there's money that should have been there and it's gone. And you hear about it when it happens on a big level, but if it's happening to you personally, it doesn't really matter. You're still just as mad as anyone else, right?
Yeah. Fraud is a big one that everybody has to deal with at some point, right? If you run a business and you accept payments, chances are you're probably going to deal with fraud at some point, right? Mm-hmm. And we've all received those calls from the Nigerian prince, or emails, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the scary part is fraudsters are getting more and more sophisticated, and so we've really wanted to go out and find the best tools that we've added into our stack. So we partnered with a company called Count, really well known in the merchant processing space. Offer a phenomenal product, and they're at the cutting edge of any and all fraud trends and tools and features. And so, that comes included in our technology stack, which is great. In addition to that, one of the other things we haven't talked about is from a merchant's perspective is a chargeback, right? So not fraud, on a giant level, but let's say, for example, you're a company and you're a clothing company and you sell hats, right? Somebody goes online and they purchase a hat from your company. And then you deliver it, you do everything you're supposed to do as a business, but then they go to their credit card company and say, hey, I never received that hat, right? Yeah. What do you do at that point when you're a merchant and you're a business and you're a startup? You don't know what to do. You've never dealt with that before, right? And so it can be pretty complex. And so, that's what we would call a chargeback. So dealing with a chargeback, understanding how they work, understanding what you can do as a business owner to help mitigate that. All of those things are things we help merchants out with, because there's nobody there to tell you how to do it. You don't know what you don't know until you run into those issues. And so we have a full chargeback mitigation platform included as well. That's really helpful for merchants.
Yeah. Because if you only sold one hat to one person, that scales, right? You could say, prove it, and call it good, right? I never got the hat. Well, I saw a picture of you with the hat on.
Yeah.
Doesn't scale, right?
But you got to hire a private investigator to go get that picture, right?
Not good. Of course, it all boils down to, like, if people were just honest, we wouldn't have to have all these robust defenses, but it's not going to happen. So what I'm kind of hearing is, like, we will either make you more money, save you more money, and make it so you don't have to worry about it as much. Is that a little accurate?
Yeah, absolutely, right? It's simplifying a really complex industry. And again, the hard part is you don't know what you don't know. As a new business, who's never taken credit cards before, or as a Fortune 500 company that takes credit cards all the time. It's such an ever-changing space that from a fraud perspective and from just an overall, consultative, how do I make the best strategy decisions for my payments as my company, it's something that everybody should think about who runs and operates a business.
Yeah. And for folks thinking about that, amongst all the other things they're thinking about, when would be a good time for them to engage with Nexio? Is it PowerPoint and Dream? Is it a certain amount of revenue? Where's the sweet spot for you guys?
Yeah, I think we're positioned pretty uniquely in the industry where, because of the technology stack we have, we can really cater to anything from a startup company to a company doing, $1 billion in revenue. The difference is there's different needs associated with each of those types of businesses and anybody in between. But we can grow and scale with your business. We don't pigeonhole you into, making certain decisions today that are going to inhibit your ability to be strategic or to change your strategy in the future. Where a lot of other companies, unfortunately, they get you while you're young and then you're with them for life, right? And what we really want to change in the industry is allowing for strategic decisions to be made about payments and then be nimble enough to continue to grow and mold with you as your needs change in your business's life cycle over time.
Yeah, we always say with the partners that we work with, right? One of the questions we ask right from the get-go is, what's your end goal? Is it going to be a strategic exit, maybe 10 or 15 years? Is it just monetization? Is it the technology that you want to provide your customers? Where with just your typical payment processing company, you're not really going to get that kind of scalability and customization with that partner. We really try to take it from a partnership approach, from a consultative approach, saying, hey, what do you guys want to get out of payment processing? And we can help them get that, right? If it's a white label payment solution that they want that looks and feels just like their software, great, we can do that. But there's so much more value that they can get by just simply monetizing payments. And we talk to our partners a lot about this is, we can help them get basically the benefits of a payment company without really having to take on all of the overhead and cost and burden associated with that, where, hey, we've got ownership of what's called our BIN, or that's your merchant portfolio with the sponsor banks. And you can have ownership of that BIN to leverage as you grow as a company, right? If you start as a startup and, progress to a 500 million or $1 billion company, you can say, hey, we from the get-go had ownership of this BIN or merchant portfolio. And you can really leverage that value with investors if you're looking for a round of funding, if you're looking to make an exit and say, hey, we have ownership of this BIN. It's valuable. We can, it's portable, right? We can basically do a sign and acquisition and pick it up and put it within your portfolio of payment processing. It gives companies flexibility from the start where if they're going to be with a payment company, just your any old payment company, they're not going to have that flexibility. They're basically stuck. So we look for partners who are really thinking of payments strategically, not just, hey, payments as a commodity, get me set up on a rev share, get me a merchant account. We want them to think more strategically, and we challenge them to think outside the box. And that's really the kind of partners that we're looking for, whether it's a startup or, a $1 billion company. We've done it all from there and in between. So,
yeah, sounds like there's flexibility, which I think people will need more and more.
Yep.
Because as we've talked about a lot on this podcast so far, like things change, and I wouldn't even doubt in my lifetime there's going to be some sort of new way to pay for things. Recently it's been like Bitcoin and Ethereum and that type of thing. Did you guys get involved in any of that, and did customers and merchants bring it up?
We haven't yet. We have some partners that we've talked about, being able to bring on board to offer some sort of a Bitcoin or some kind of experience that way to allow people to pay. It's still probably a little early.
Yeah.
I feel like the financial sector is a lot of times the last to adapt to new technologies in a lot of ways. Sometimes they're the first, but with this one, I think everybody's.
There definitely needs to be more regulations before I don't think we've looked into it too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But there will be just for funsies, in 30 years, you might be able to just scan your eyeballs and that $30 went and it's completely verified and all of that. I think companies like you guys will have to remain nimble and fleet of foot.
Yep.
Because people care, was a recurring theme, about their money. And so do the merchants.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
You're not going to put in all this effort and all this hard work and not care about the end result, right?
Absolutely.
So there's, in researching you guys a little bit, something called control, connect, and scale, and then customize. That seems like what you guys have been talking about in a nutshell, with that customization being critical, because most things in life are not just, here's the template, or here's the 9.5 size shoe, make it work, even though you've got a 12 size shoe, right? And if you're not flexible, I assume people will just say, all right, good talking to you.
Yeah, and now more than ever, right? Technology has really allowed for the fintech side of things to grow exponentially. And so, like I said before, I mean, when we talk about control, it's your ability as a company to decide or dictate your payment strategy, where you want to go and how you want to operate. Do you want to offer credit cards? Do you want to offer alternative payment methods? Do you want to, tap to pay or dip your card, or even not even have card present transactions? Maybe it's all online. Being able to control how you go to market and what the strategy is behind payments, I think is where we are unique, because we have and can offer so many solutions that way. And then the connectability I've talked a lot about with our extensive platform, and it's ever growing and ever changing, especially internationally, right? A lot of people ask about our international capabilities, and we have a very robust international sector of our business. Again, it's all the different life cycles of a company. You, as a startup in the United States, you probably don't really care about that. But at a certain point, when you continue to grow and you start to, sell products in Mexico or in Europe or Australia, you need to accept payment for that product, right? And those are the types of things that I think companies overlook in the beginning.
Yeah.
But when they partner with a company like us that can give them the connectability, and then, the last word on there is scale. As they scale, we have this robust feature list, and they're able to pick and choose what they want to use now and what they're not going to use now, but potentially use later.
Yeah. Little a la carte.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been using examples of like hats and other like tangible things, which is easier to relate to, but it seems like a good fit for like SaaS companies, right? That are selling you something. You can't put it on your head, but it is something it's a tool. And that seems like sometimes it's not looked at as closely as like consumer goods, outdoor retail, that type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. SaaS is probably the fastest growing portion of our business. We love being here in Utah, right?
There's a lot.
And there's a lot of companies here in that market. And you're exactly right. People are starting to realize, SaaS companies in particular are starting to realize how to fully monetize each and every one of their users. And what we have seen is secondary only to your main product that you're selling as a SaaS company. Payments is one of the lowest hanging fruit components of your offering, where you can monetize your customer base in a significant way. Think about it. You've already got, X amount of users on your platform. And generally, if you're a SaaS company, you're offering some sort of software that makes their life better, easier, faster, more efficient in some way. And on the end of that, almost always there's a transaction that occurs. And so when we embed payments into that software and allow for your customers to be able to pay through your software platform, it allows you an additional avenue of revenue that you can extrapolate from your customer base. And then when you partner with a company who has a robust list of features, you can also upsell or mark up each of those features as well. And so there's additional revenue streams really all throughout it, from fraud, PCI, a bunch of different elements that you can monetize there.
I love it. And I'm, again, maybe too simplistic, but I'm thinking when I shop at Cabela's, so you want to round up to the nearest dollar for like the conservation fund. And it's always yes. But if I had to do one more step, it would be no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's convenience. You're
Yeah.
exactly right. It's the convenience. It's having a product that walks that fine line between, you don't want to make them do too much, but you want to offer something really cool and really easy.
Yeah. As you guys have talked about it, there's probably a bunch of acronyms that you're only familiar with like the financial services and fintech in general, which for me implies like there might be a bit more of a learning curve for like your sales force and the folks that are going to actually get out there and interact with customers. And the customers obviously know all the acronyms and what they need and when they need it and how they need it. How do you guys like build your teams to where your folks are comfortable and confident and the answers are there and the solutions are there?
Yeah, that's a great question. When it comes to payments, especially, and I'm sure everybody probably says this about their own industry, right? Once you start to dive in, there's always more that you could learn. I think that's especially true with payments. It's an ever-changing landscape, which creates a certain level of difficulty. And then on top of that, to be able to keep up a training manual, to keep it up to date with the most recent trends and what's going on. You mentioned cryptocurrency, right? Like,
Yeah.
How do we keep up with how quickly things are changing? And I think the best answer for that is to just stay involved, stay in the know. We subscribe to pretty much every payment organization, magazine, literature, blog, everything we can out there, and hopefully set some trends ourselves, right? I think we're doing some things pretty uniquely in the industry. And so as far as how we keep our sales teams up to date with all of that stuff, we're really hands-on. We meet with our sales teams, my sales managers meeting with them at least weekly, if not pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Just talking about, hey, is there anything that you don't know? Acronyms. I would say it probably takes a good 3 months to get somebody who's fresh off the street, doesn't know a whole lot about payments other than I can, use my card at the grocery store,
Yeah.
to being proficient, to be able to talk through, what is interchange and basis points, right? Like
PCI,
all of those things. So
Yeah.
we just have to be really regimented in our training processes, make sure everything is documented, and then be quick to update those documents as well when things do change in the industry. So
Yeah. Well, kudos to you guys and your entire team, because there's certain gnarly beasts out there that are harder to tame than others. And for what it's worth, in my opinion, I think you guys are tackling one of the more difficult ones. And
Yeah.
I assume it's fun and stimulating and challenging, but it's a moving target. And, from what I can tell, if you guys are streamlined and doing what you say, like you're going to make a lot of people happier because that's one less thing for them to worry about. And they can maybe like go home a little bit earlier on a Monday night.
controllers love us.
Yes. Yes. And it's not like, oh, look at this heap of nuanced, unfinished stuff that I got to figure out.
Yep.
Well, very cool. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you, Mack, for joining us. I love talking to folks that are like in the trenches, and you guys clearly enjoy what you're doing. So thanks for your time.
Thanks,
I
Garrett.
appreciate your
you.
time. Thank you.